This is episode number 12 of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. Welcome to the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. My name is Jeff Thornton, tech entrepreneur and fitness enthusiast, alongside Michael Anders and Jason Sani. Each week we bring you an inspiring person or message related to our 4 pillars of success: manifestation, business, fitness, and nutrition. Thank you for allowing us to join you on your journey. Now let's get started.
What up? Episode 12, Feed Me, Fuel Me. What's good? Mike Anders here with my man, Jeff Thornton.
What's up?
What up? Yeah, we were just talking about my little brother's fight. He's a professional MMA fighter out of Birmingham, Alabama. And, yeah, as time goes on, man, he just gets more methodical with his stuff. It's pretty impressive to watch his evolution as a fighter because in this last fight, he had a first round TKO by strikes. And, I mean, he just... I'm not deep in the fight game by any means. I only really know the headliners at any given time. But, you know, if you watch that fight, man, he just slowly picks that cat apart and just destroys him. It was pretty weird.
That's
it's pretty awesome, man. But he's done something that relates to our topic today, and that's test driving your life. In that he's got a really extensive wrestling background, and he really gravitates to that, and it made him a really good football player when he played, and he's just really sound when it comes to his awareness in space, and all of that has led to his advantage. So when he got into the to MMA after football, he only had really a stand-up game to really focus on in terms of becoming decent across the board. He's comfortable on the ground and mixing it up in close quarters, but the dirty boxing and all that kind of good stuff was an element that he really needed to work on. But he had a lot of previous experience through wrestling that would lend him to know whether or not he was going to be decent, or even one step further, whether he's going to enjoy MMA. So he's a great wrestler, loved wrestling, and then so it was kind of a natural progression after football to get into MMA. But yeah, I mean, what we're going to talk about today is test driving your life, and how giving yourself a taste of your goals, even if you're in a position where they're not quite attainable in the moment, to make sure that your goals are indeed your goals, and you're really going after things that you actually want. We were talking earlier about how it's really easy to fall into the trap of pursuing other people's gains, in the sense that folks that you admire and look up to have attained certain things and have manifested certain things for themselves, and it's really easy when you're not at that level just yet to simply make what they have your goal. And I use the example of the car, where let's say a mentor of yours is driving an M6, and so you say, I want to drive an M6 too, and you devote all the efforts in your life to being able to afford that M6, and then you finally get to that point, you get in it, and you don't like the way it drives, you don't fit in the damn thing, you hate the mileage, you don't like anything about it, and so you did all that work, you're in a great place because you can obviously afford a dope ride, but then you get there and it's just like, this isn't what I really want. And that's a very precarious situation to be in, because now you have to reevaluate what you did all that work for, So it's extremely important in this life to not only have goals and chase after the things you want, but also by a process of elimination as early as possible, know what it is that you don't want. So test driving your life is extremely important. So whether you can afford it or not, something that I like to do, and I'll dive into this a little bit later, is so if it is the M6 that has caught your eye, it's a sexy vehicle, don't get me wrong, stop by the dealership and get in the damn thing, and find out if that's what you really want to devote your efforts towards. And if it's not, it's not. There's no skin off your back. You don't have a whole lot of skin in the game at that point, and you can shift gears and adjust accordingly. So
that's smart, man.
Yeah,
it's true though. I think it works in all aspects of life, and I like the car analogy because I think back when I was starting out, working, that's what I started reading a little bit more. Get a little bit more savvy once you get out of school and you read more. And they're like, my whole thing was, man, I want a Lamborghini,
Sure.
I want that car so bad. And, you get out of high school, or get out of college, and you want a ball, you want to look good. And I ended up moving to Philly and working for that company, SAP, as I mentioned before in the other podcast. And then just down the street from that SAP building, if you just take a ride outside, man, it's in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania, of all places. And you take a ride, and it's like you drive down no less than 5 minutes. You see the McLaren auto dealership. You drive past it every day going to work. You're stuck in this salary job, and you're like, man, I'm a junior employee, but one of those days I'm going to step in that dealership and buy me a McLaren cash. That was my dream or whatever. So like one afternoon, I was like, you know what? I got done reading like a Tony Robbins, something like that, or Grant Cardone. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use that test drive methodology. I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna visualize myself. Or the secret. I'm gonna visualize myself in that Lamborghini. Boom. And I go to that place, and I go to the dealership, and I walk on the lot, and the guys come up to me like, hey, you looking to purchase? Well, I don't have the money to afford these type of vehicles yet, but let me jump in there, let me see if I like it. So I jump in the Lamborghini or whatever, and I was just like, once I got in it, I was like, damn, like, it's not what I expected. Like, it's a beautiful car.
Right.
But I knew that wasn't my driving force to, like, success, And it took me just stepping into that dealership that day to say, man, let me shift my goals to, like, what the heck do I really want? And at the time, I didn't know, so I had to sit at night, every night, and just write down, what do I really want? Because I was going, like, I want the car, I want this and this. But I stepped in the car, like you mentioned, and it's like, that's not what I really want.
Right.
And it forced me to think, like, and actually sit back and ask myself the hard questions of, what in the world am I trying to attain in this life?
Right.
And then just really get focused on that. So I think that's a powerful methodology. And it's interesting that you brought that up today, because you find yourself throughout life, you see yourself as you're trotting along, and you get successes and failures and all this.
Yeah.
And sometimes along the way, I know I get lost, and I'm like, man, like, you feel good, and then you see something like, damn, that car looks fresh, you know. But then you have to reshift your purpose again, and it's a continual balance that I know I fight sometimes.
Oh yeah, man.
And it's just interesting, but I think it's a powerful methodology if you use it.
Oh yeah, man, and it applies to everything, relationships I was in before I was married, or not so relationships I was in before I was married. Going through, they're relationships nonetheless. So, going through that process, of courting, if you will, and really discovering what it is you really want and like in a significant other. I think I know for me, being, single for as long as I was, it was extremely important. So by the time Nicole rolled around, like, I knew, when I met her, that she's the one. She's the total package.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I wouldn't have had that awareness without all that, my previous experiences. And I treat business very much the same way in that, if you're looking to expand space, and facilitate the next level of your vision, it doesn't do you any good to just sit there and, draw a 50,000 square foot facility. You know what I mean? Like, do yourself a favor and go step inside 50,000 square feet and see what that looks like.
Right.
And if you don't know what square footage looks like, 50,000 square feet is gigantic. So that's a very exaggerated example of what I'm talking about. But just, stepping in, going and touring real estate and seeing what it is you actually need to facilitate your goal. And, because a lot of times it's way more simple than you make it out to be in your mind, For example, I've been sharing my vision with a couple of key individuals over the last couple of weeks, and taking a look at some things and exploring some options in terms of growth and joining forces and whatnot. And even the people element above and beyond the business of it all is extremely important too, to make sure that your respective visions align and see how cohesive those elements really turn out to be. And you really have to check that temperature, because if you step into a space and everybody's body language is cold feet, you know what I mean? You need to step back and reassess some things, and at the same time, leverage their insight and their opinions and to help you make the best educated decision moving forward. But if you keep trying to do it in your mind without stepping into the physical space, and for me it's I have this concept in my mind, but if we don't go explore these options together, it's really difficult to validate the concept and see if it truly makes sense. So you really have to put yourself out there to a certain extent, kind of as we've talked about in previous shows, and see what it's all about and kind of create that validation for yourself as to whether or not it's worth pursuing. Because even though that Lamborghini looks really sexy on the side of the road, that might not be the car for you once you get in it, and I just really love the automobile example, because I've been behind the wheel of a Porsche, I've been behind the wheel of an Audi, I've been behind the wheel of a Tesla, and while they're fun, to mash the gas and do that stuff, I'm an SUV guy. So like that's making the attainment of something bright and shiny like that just really doesn't do it for me. I approached my relationship with Nicole in that way. I approached my business that way, and making sure that whatever it is I'm pursuing is exactly what I want.
Exactly.
Because I've eliminated all the elements that I don't want, to really refine and hone in on goals that are legitimate for me. And that's just been a huge it's become part of who I am in my process and my evaluation of life.
That's interesting, man. I think, like you're saying, it's interesting when you start discovering and getting true with yourself and like who you really are as a person. Like you said, you became that. I like the car example with you, the SUV man, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting, like the situation my brother and I, Voight, were in last night was that, I'm not a big guy. I don't like clubbing, things like that, going those type of events. But then we got the call that they said there's a promotional event at this Bowlmore, that bowling alley.
Yeah.
And they said, you have the CEO is going to be there, the owner of this club. Boom, you can go meet him, or you can go talk to him and start networking. And so it turned into a networking event. I said, okay, I'm not interested in the club portion of it, because, they had people doing what they had to do, clubbing.
Yeah.
But then it was interesting to me, because what fires me up is meeting people, business, and networking.
Right.
So we got a chance. We interfaced with this guy, met him, exchanged information, and then after that event, went to that club Mint. Mm-hmm. And then we met the owners of that club. But all in the confines of a party environment, the entire time I was doing business. And that's what I knew excited me, like all the bright lights, people like the dancing and stuff. But in my heart, if I was sitting on the dance floor, I would be bored to tears. Mm-hmm. But since I was in that same environment, creating a business relationship and networking, man, like I was up and ready to go. And I found out for me, coming up through the days, like, man, I always told me I want to be a partier, I want to be crazy,
mm-hmm.
But you said that's not my destiny for me, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I just find it more interesting. The more real I got with myself, the more difficult questions I started asking myself, the more refined my process became in, mm-hmm. Putting pieces in my life that I really enjoy, right? Because as you continue to grow, I mean, you said we can all fall across the track of looking at the next man or woman saying, hey,
mm-hmm.
They have this. I think I would want that too. But then when you really get completely clear about, I guess, like your vision and what you want in life, you can get rid of all the distractions and actually work towards your true goal. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, the elimination of distractions is like probably the best part.
Right.
You don't covet stuff that is irrelevant.
Right.
And at the same time, it really streamlines your track, because mm-hmm. you're pursuing things that you genuinely care about, mm-hmm. And they're clear and they're defined. Mm-hmm. You see somebody driving that sweet fast Jag, and that's what they wanted. Right. Is that what you want? Right. If it is, great, go get it. Yeah. Go for it. Absolutely. It's like the giant lifted truck, you know what I mean? Yeah. Which, has so much gear on it. It might as well, it's right there with, the Jag and the Porsche and all that other mm-hmm. stuff, but if that's not truly what you want, mm-hmm. then why are you chasing that? Mm-hmm. We've kind of dumbed this very, deep concept to, cars and material things, but it really does play out in everything that you do in life.
That's true.
And like you were saying, though, the elimination of those distractions, it becomes a focal point of your productivity, mm-hmm. because when you're not distracted and your path is clear, you're unstoppable. Mm-hmm. And what I found is, when you're pursuing something with reckless abandonment, people get out of your way. Mm-hmm. They don't even bother trying to distract you. Yeah. It's not, in the beginning, it's easy to look at it from an antisocial standpoint. Like you're not into the club scene. And a lot of people, in the early onset of attaining goals, will see it negatively that they're not invited to social events like that. Mm-hmm. And, they become susceptible to the fear of missing out, mm-hmm. when ultimately it's some shit that you didn't want to get into in the first place. Right. Mm-hmm. So why is that a big deal? Mm-hmm. And once your goals are clearly defined, that fear of missing out goes away, because you're now aware and have come to terms with what you're into and what you're not into. Mm-hmm. And if it's, an event that sure is fun, but it's not your bag, then you don't worry about it anymore. Mm-hmm. You're not preoccupied with empty thoughts. Mm-hmm. You can really shift gears and focus your attention to the stuff that really matters to you.
It's true. And I pay a lot of attention to different stuff on the web. You look at vloggers, business, whatever. And I think it's interesting is it sort of plays into the part of manifestation. So you walk into, like you said, you're a place where massive square footage, like, man, could potentially be my warehouse, my business. And I think it's interesting to once you open yourself up to that situation, I know we talked about it before, but the second you allow yourself to dive in the thought of actually having that or attaining that goal, so to speak, the universe sort of brings it towards you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those things you don't know how you're going to attain this goal. It may be financially out of your reach, or just out of your reach in whatever way it may be. But somewhere along the line, it's going to come towards you because you've put it out there in the world. And I think that's why I'm sort of big on voicing my goals, whether it be through, well, nowadays huge is through social media, and say I have a goal that I really want to stick to or attain. Just put it out there. Maybe you just throw a jab out there on Twitter, like, hey, in a year I'm going to be here. And then when you put it out there, you're like, how in the world am I going to get to that point? But I mean, you set yourself to that destination, down that path to reach that goal, right?
It's crazy that you say that, because I remember when I was off shift in Afghanistan, and I've been journaling since I was 16 years old. And I took a couple of journals out there with me and kind of kept track of my experience out there. And that's where I drew the first schematic of my gym.
That's crazy.
And I'll never forget having that conversation with my buddies, because we used to have Stogie Fridays, and we'd all get together off shift on Friday evenings out there in the desert and smoke cigars. And they were like, dude, how are you going to start a gym? Like, what does that path look like? I'm like, I don't have a fucking clue, man.
Yeah.
But I know I'm going to do it, and when you make it real, in my case, drawing that diagram, I'm talking about everything. I knew how many benches I was going to have. I knew where everything was going to be, platforms, cages, barbells, the whole shebang. And, then it becomes real. And then you start talking about it and telling people that you're going to do it. And not only does the universe align for you, it also holds you accountable. And if you got, any gusto about you whatsoever, like, that's always in the back of your mind. Because I wrote about it in my book. It's so much easier to let yourself down than it is to come up short for somebody else. And when you throw your goals out there and, like I share my vision with you, like that just creates an extra incentive to follow through. Because if it's just me and it doesn't happen, well, nobody's the wiser, but if I tell you about it and don't take any action, I know that that I'm not doing shit. It's one thing to try and fail. You get respect for that all day long. But to not take any action whatsoever after, talking the huge game and saying you're going to do all these things and then nothing happens, that's that just kind of tells people everything they need to know about you.
Right.
So, when it comes to manifestation, letting people know what you're about, what you're looking to do, what you want to accomplish, and how you're going to do it, that's everything. It's everything.
It's huge. You have to sit down. Like you said, I think it's interesting you talk about journaling, because I'm not a huge writer. I can write, but, I think for me, I'm more of the guy that likes to be in front of the camera,
right,
talking.
Yeah. That's your medium.
Yeah, that's my medium, and that's my strength, I guess you'd say, meeting people, doing things like that. But I found it interesting when you said just journaling, because even back when I was in Philly, going back to those days, I was really on this the Tony Robbins, and he had a 30-day program. I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, he talks about writing down. He used the example of finding the perfect woman for him, right? So he wrote down. He's like, this is exactly how she's gonna look. This is how she's gonna act. This is how many kids I want. Blah blah blah. So he wrote it down, I mean, as clear as you could write, blonde hair, blue eyes, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually in that 6 months, that exact woman comes into his life with the amount of kids that he wanted and everything that he asked for. He's like, and he said, that's the power of communicating your vision to the world. He's like, I didn't know how I was going to find this person, but I was so clear that this is exactly how she would look. So I knew that she was going to be, for instance, blonde. So I wouldn't even look at brunettes, red hair, He's like, because this is the exact woman that I want. So I was so clear that I knew I didn't have to waste my time meeting any of these other people because that's how concrete his vision was. And then eventually the universe, so to speak, brought it back to him. I think at the time I didn't really understand that concept. I'm like, man, that seems restrictive. Like, how in the heck do you know like the exact person that you want? But I mean, as you start, I guess testing a little bit more, or not even testing, practicing that a little bit more in your life, you can start seeing, man, like the stuff you write down becomes true, man. And it's that saying, like, be careful what you ask for, you might get it. And I've coming up, people use it as like as a negative, like, oh, be careful what you ask for. If you want to become rich, you be willing to take all the negativity that comes with it. But what that showed me was that being able to sort of manifest your life in that way, you bring a lot of positivity in your life because it's if you write down, I want all of these positive things surrounding me, that's what you're going to get. But if you say, I want negativity surrounding me, that's what you're going to get as well. And I don't think it's talked about enough to where it's more everybody comes from a stance of fear. And they put all this fear around your goals, and it doesn't even have to be like that.
Yeah, it's very easy. It's very easy in humanity these days to really put frame things in a negative perspective. But I mean, it's absolutely true. That which you focus on most is what you manifest in the universe. And if you look at a post I had last night, if you really want to change your life, start focusing on the solution as opposed to the problem.
Right.
And I think that's something that plagues us in American society for sure. Right now, there's so much focus on the problems with our society, be it education, racism, classism, socioeconomics, whatever. There's so much focus on the problems, and comparatively speaking, we're talking about grains of rice compared to mountains. We're talking about solution versus problems. If we were able to flip-flop that and drive our focus towards solutions instead of merely acknowledging problems, be a game changer for society, man.
You're right about that.
And if you look at all the people that are the major players in your life, the people that you look up to, that you admire, that you aspire to be one day or be like one day, they're all solution finders, not problem solvers, solution finders. And I'm the same way with my staff, and everybody that potentially comes to me for counsel. I don't even take consulting jobs if you don't have a proposed solution right off the bat, because that just tells me that you're not focused on getting out of your own way. You're still lost in the problem. And when you're so focused on the problem, you can't. It's impossible to find the solution. You're just constantly putting Band-Aids on symptoms. You're not curing the disease. And when you flip your mindset, you flip that switch and you become solution oriented versus problem oriented. I mean, the world is your oyster at that point. That doesn't make things any easier. You know what I mean? Like, you still have to deal with your fair share of bullshit. However, you're constantly gaining traction and making progress versus being stuck where you're at.
That's true. That's a powerful point. I think Man, we could probably close on that point, seriously. That's a really powerful point. But before we close out, is like, I think it all comes back to gratitude, for so to speak, too, because what really brought things in perspective, I heard, I think, was it 2 weeks ago or so? It's, you know how we talk about the 1% of America. Everybody wants to be that 1%. And then a guy, for the life of me, I can't remember his name. It had to be, I can't think of his name. But basically what he was saying was that, okay, so they have this negative connotation towards like the 1% of America. But like, he's like, instead of looking at it like that, he's like, think of how lucky you are. And I'm talking about just in America. He's like, think how lucky you are. He's like, if you're in America, you're already the 1%. He's like, because if you take what you're making now and compare it to the rest of the world, you are the 1%. He said, because around the world, nobody has what we have. Even I'm talking about financially. So you could be making $30,000 a year, but that's way more than the guy who makes 2 cents per day around the world. And I say, and it was interesting to me because he was talking about how everybody gets so focused, like, I want to be the 1%, I want to be this, I want to be this. And he's like, you need to realize that you're already at that goal. Right. So once you realize that you already have that, now start reaching towards what you really want in life, because you've already attained that goal. Once you were born in America, you make your 30,000. You're the 1%. Congratulations, you made it. Right. Now go for what you really want. Sure. Yeah. And that's powerful to me. That's dope. You know what I mean? When it put a lot of things in perspective for me. That's big, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. Hey, thanks for joining us today. And, find us on iTunes and everywhere on social media at Feed Me, Fuel Me. Be looking for content. And, please, after you listen to this episode, give us that 5-star rating. And leave us a comment about what you want to hear about next, and we'll make sure that we get to it. We're working our way through a list right now that's pretty comprehensive, and you guys have given us a lot of honest and great, genuine feedback, and we appreciate that to the utmost. So thank you for letting us join you on your journey, and we hope that you continue to find value in everything that we're putting out there. So that's episode 12, and we'll see you next time. Feed me, fuel me. Take it easy, guys. Much love. And there you have it. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure to check out the full show notes and get connected with us at feedmefuelme.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to all of our social media on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter at feedmefuelme. We're looking forward to connecting with each and every one of you. If you found this episode inspiring in any way, please rate, comment, and subscribe so we can continue on this journey together. Also, share it with your friends on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter, or any other social platforms that you use. We really appreciate you spending your time with us today and allowing us to join you on your journey. We would love to hear your feedback on this episode, as well as topics for future episodes as well. To end this episode, we would love to leave you with a quote by Oprah Winfrey. You must have some vision for your life. Even if you don't know the plan, you have to have a direction in which you can choose to go. You want to be in the driver's seat of your own life, because if you are not, life will drive you. Thank you again for joining us, and we will catch you on the next episode.